awakened by the Spirit. The first religious sisters ever seen on mainland New Guinea arrived just a century ago on Palm Sunday, 26 March 1899. They landed on the small island of Temilio, just offshore from Aitepe, in what is today the West Epic province of Papua New Guinea. There were 4 of them, all Holy Spirit sisters, SSpS, and all from Germany. There were Sisters Ursula Sensen, Fridolina Voigt, Superior, Valeria, and Marta Seferdin. All 4 were teachers, and only one was over 35 years of age. They came in response to a call for help from the first 6 Divine Word missionaries to the South Seas, who had arrived on Temilio Island 3 years previously. Within months, the SPDs informed the founder of both the congregations, Father Arnold Johnson, that without the help of sisters, they would be able to make little progress in bringing the good news to the local women. Father Johnson quickly responded by sending these 4 sisters. As these newcomers knew neither the culture nor the language of the people, they had to content themselves with slowly sowing the seeds of Christianity by their own example. At first, people did not trust them, afraid that these strange creatures might have come to practice sorcery on them. Slowly, their trust in the sisters grew to the point where the people began to call on them whenever they needed help. That was a good start. Gradually, they began used to the strange ways of the missionaries, and the newcomers slowly became accustomed to the strange ways of the people. Soon, the young girls who were helping the sisters in the garden, laundry, sewing room, house, and kitchen picked up basic hygiene for a start. The girls and sisters were also picking up smattering of each other's language, sounds, and vocabulary. The earlier missionaries who had learned Tokples and who somewhat understood the people had during their first 3.5 years baptized about 100 people in Temilio and another 50 in Walman. They were preparing their new group for baptism on Pentecost Sunday, 1899, since there were 10 girls among them. The sisters were asked to be their sponsors. So afterwards, they had a special festive meal of rice and meat for the new Catholics. The sisters were surprised when the children preferred to eat with their fingers instead of spoons, which until then were unknown to them. Teaching. Father Limbrook wrote in 1900, The main activity of the sisters is teaching, and that is not an easy task since they have not a single teaching aid except a blackboard and a handmade bulletin board. Later, Sister Valeria wrote too. I myself write the catechism, the reader, the writing and maths books for the girls, and I try to adapt my teaching methods to the local conditions. A typical daily school timetable, except for Thursdays, look like this. 8 o'clock morning prayer in church, followed by catechism in talk place for an hour. 9:30 to 11 o'clock in the morning, reading, writing stories in German. 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, handcraft, sewing, bilum making, gardening. In the afternoon, there were classes for the boys learning German. On Thursdays, the school children attended 6:30 a.m. Mass. Then the sisters visited the people in the villages. The two biggest hurdles in the education system of the day were: one, which language to use in the schools; two, the lack of suitable text and teaching aids. Language. Sister Valeria did learn talk place Tamil quickly, but it was very difficult. When the people became accustomed to hearing German spoken frequently, they, especially the children, began to speak it and became rather fluent. So German became the language of instruction in schools. After all, New Guinea was a German colony. Printing press. In her very first year, Sister Valeria reported to her superiors in Style, Holland. I was asked to begin teaching the girls reading, writing, and arithmetic next week with no teaching aids whatever. These children have no idea what they are being told unless they can see at least a picture of it. In answer to her need, a sister back in Europe set about learning how to run a simple hand-operated printing press. She was Sister Cherubina Prince, who arrived in Timilio in 1905 with just such a press. She immediately set up the press and commenced printing catechetical material in the vernacular, simple readers of all kinds, plus maths books in German, along with hymnals and prayer books. Hers was the very first printing press to operate in New Guinea. The Methodists set up one in Rabaul in 1908. The Lutherans in Longaweng, Pensaven in 1909. One can imagine the immensity of Sister Cherubina's task, which one realizes that all the texts she printed were hand-set, letter by letter, on a composing stick. The SVD took over the press in 1907 and made good use of the apprentices Sister had trained. She herself moved over to the mainland at Walman, Lameng, and was the superior there until her death in 1915. Before the First World War, the emphasis in school was not solely academic, but concentrated very much on the formation of good and literate Christian leaders. Many of those first students became the catechists who helped to evangelize their own people.